Hey everybody, welcome to Super Mega Graphics 64. Well, this is my return to the Atari 5200 video. I want to talk to you a little bit about this console. Um, if you followed my old channel, you might know the story of what happened with my Atari 5200, this Atari 5200. I, if you don't know anything about how this console works, you have to have this little breakout box that the wire on the bottom of this plugs into here, and the power plugs in here, and this goes into the TV here, and then you get a signal from the console. That's the only way to get a signal out of an Atari 5200. And I made some mistakes with my wonderful Atari 5200. It's a weird console. It's a console a lot of people have made fun of constantly, and I think it's misunderstood in a lot of ways. I actually really like this console. It's probably my favorite Atari console, although that's a weird thing to say because I love the 2600, the 7800. I have my Atari computer. Maybe my XEGS is my favorite, actually, if I think about it. I don't know. It's tough to say. And of course the Jaguar, the Atari Jaguar, which I thoroughly enjoy, and came to love once again after many years of being a a how do I say this, a butthurt former Atari fan who came back around to it. Anyway, here's the story of what happened with the 5200, in case you don't know or if you don't remember, whatever. I was tinkering around inside this console because I was trying to get as good of a signal as I could possibly get out of it using the regular TV plug-in. By the way, this is a brand new one. I bought new old stock. Yes, that's right. It's a brand new switch. It was never used. I took it out of the wrapping and everything. Not very expensive. It might seem like it might be, but it's really not. Surprisingly, 5200 stuff's really not that bad for the most part. But as I was saying, if you want to get a signal out of the Atari 5200, you use this wire and it plugs into that box. However, if you were to open the Atari 5200 like this, then you would see on the board right over here, see that connector next to that wire that goes down and is the wire that you see underneath? You see that RCA connector right there next to my thumb? Yes, the thumb. The thumb using his thumb. I know it's like Inception. My theory was that if I could run a gold-plated cable out of that, I might get a better picture from my Atari 5200. It's a great idea, I thought. Good theory. And I tried to do that. And when I plugged that gold-plated cable into that, and ran that gold-plated cable into the box that you use, I got, instead of a spark that you tend to get here, I got a spark over here. Okay. And I thought the console didn't work after that. Big spark, and then the console would not turn on. It would not turn on. A couple of things happened in quick succession, whatever. A couple of things happened which I got confused about and didn't remember correctly, which will come into play in just a second when I get done describing this, and I'm taking forever, I'm sorry. But yeah, the spark happened here. The console would not turn on after that. So I tried doing various things. I messed around with it. I unplugged it, plugged it back in again, as you're told to do on the IT crowd or the IT crowd, whatever. None of these things worked. I read on the internet about problems people had with their Ataris doing weird things and stuff. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was going on. And as I was screwing around with stuff and hooking things back up and different things like that, I grabbed my other old box, my old Atari Breakout box, and I plugged what I thought was the Atari 5200 AC adapter in, but it was actually not the Atari 5200 AC adapter. It was the AC adapter for my TurboGrafx 16 CD unit. And when I plugged it into this box, almost immediately, black smoke poured out of the box. Not this box, but the previous box that I had. Black smoke poured out. Crazy, like very scary stuff. My whole apartment basically was like, I'm surprised my fire alarm didn't go off because it was a lot of smoke. I pulled that thing out as quick as I could, and of course the box was fried. Hence buying another box. So what I thought had happened was that I had screwed this box up. So I bought a new one. I bought a new Breakout box, got the Atari 5200 back out, plugged it back in, turned it on, nothing, no power, nothing. Then I read that there's this chip right over here. See that chip right there that's socketed in there? Oh wait, let me use the thumb again, right there. That chip right there. I read that you could replace that chip if you had this type of issue, and a lot of people said that that would fix this problem because that chip was keeping the Atari from turning off and on and things like that. So I did. I ordered this chip. I ordered several of them just to have extras, and I'm glad I did. I took the old chip out, put a new chip in, screwed up the pins because they're real fine, had to take another one out. I'm terrible with electronics. I'm notoriously terrible about screwing up the insides of electronics. But for some reason, I think I can do it. I never want to give up on it. So anyway, switched the chip out finally with a good one, turned the power on, got everything hooked up, still nothing. Nothing. So at that point, I was pretty much convinced I had killed my Atari 5200. This thing was over and done. Game over, man. Game over. Really disappointed because, like I said, I really love this console and I have a bunch of games for it. There's actually 69 original Atari 5200 commercially released games, and I have 30 of them. I think I have maybe 31 of them, which is not, I mean, it's like not even half the library, but it's a lot, and it's a lot of the good ones. There's still some really good ones I want to get that I haven't gotten. Some of them are kind of expensive. I've gotten to that point where some of them are kind of expensive, but some of them are really not. I just haven't got them yet. The reason for that is I have an Atari XEGS computer, which is the same internal hardware basically as what's in this, and the games for the Atari 8-bit computer are basically the exact same games, like graphically, sound, everything almost. I mean, they're slightly different because there's a keyboard for the computer, so some of the controls are a little different, and the joystick is analog for the 5200 and digital for the Atari computer. And some of these games, frankly, for the 5200 work better with digital controls. Not all of them. Not all of them, but some of them. So for those, I just haven't really had any real motivation whenever I was playing the 5200 to pick up those extra titles. But I might be getting more of them. I might be getting some of those games that I never got around to buying because I now have a fully functional Atari 5200. And how can that be? Well, I'll tell you how it can be. I decided to buy another Atari 5200 because I was convinced this one was dead. And I looked at several models I saw, like different places on the internet and eBay and things like that. So I ended up getting another Atari 5200. And I'll show you that one. This is not my original 5200 from back in the day, but this is one that I've had for a few years. It's one that I've had at least, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now. And this one, which I'm about to, if I can maneuver it over here, this is my new one. And just to show you, there are actually 2 of these things. There's the other one. Okay. This is a new one. And I ordered this off eBay from a really cool guy. And it's one of my favorite games for the 5200 right there, by the way. One of the reasons I decided to get this one is because it was priced really good, I thought, for what it offered. And what it offers is a couple of really nice modifications, which I've always wanted for the 5200, which I'll show you right here. See that? That is the power mod, so you don't have to use that breakout box anymore. You just plug the AC adapter straight in, and then it also does composite and S-video output. So, needless to say, this Atari 5200 is unfreaking believable, and even puts out a better picture than my XEGS does. When I got this, I couldn't get it to work. I ordered it. I tried to plug in the AC adapter because it didn't come with an AC adapter. I was using my original AC adapter for the other one, and it wouldn't turn on. And I was trying everything I could think of, and I was talking to the guy on eBay, and he was like, "Hey, if you need to return it, that's cool." And I'm like, "Man, I don't want to return it." And I started to think, if this one's not turning on, maybe the problem is my AC adapter. Actually, I'll tell you, I was talking to Retro Bro, my buddy John, about this. I was so frustrated. And he said, I was already kind of thinking this, but when he said it, it solidified in my head. He said, "What if it's the AC adapter?" And I was like, I think it might be the AC adapter. I think I might have bought another 5200 that I didn't need to buy. So I ordered another OEM AC adapter. And I plugged it in, and this thing turned right on. So, of course, I was amazed and happy, and it was fantastic. I'm blown away. But I had to see if he was right, if John was right. And he was right. The AC adapter works on the other Atari 5200 with this breakout box. It works fine. The other 5200 was never broken. It was only the AC adapter. And once I discovered this, I went and did a search for AC adapter problems for 5200, and come to find out, yes, there is a fuse inside the AC adapter for the 5200, whether it's the 4 model or the 2 model, doesn't matter. There's a fuse inside there that notoriously blows out for people all the time. And it blows out because of that spark thing that you get. And it blew out because of the spark that I got when I plugged that cable in inside the wrong spot. Tinkering. That's what I get. That's what I get for tinkering around. So I never killed my 5200. It actually works fine. So I now have 2 5200s. I have a stock regular 5200 that I can use like you normally would use one. And then I have this new beautiful one, which will do S-video. So needless to say, I will be doing some video capture with the S-video output of the 5200. Because it looks fantastic. The picture's amazing. The guy did a really good job on that mod. So that's the story of where I'm at now with one of my favorite Atari consoles. Sometimes it's my favorite. It's hard to say when people say their favorite of this or that, because, you know, different times I feel different ways, and I get excited about things and get caught up in things. I get kind of obsessive about certain consoles depending on what I've got going on or whatever. But I've always loved the 5200. It's a misunderstood, weird console, and you know me, I love the misunderstood, weird consoles more than anything else. So I love this console. Um, I've got the trackball controller, which, by the way, I have a problem with. My trackball that I bought that came with my 5200 that I've had for a few years has never worked correctly, and it's because there's an issue with one of the sensors inside of it where there's like these little spinning wheels that will detect left movement and right movement, and up movement, up and down and left and right. This one does left and right, this one does up and down. It's kind of a weird thing. I'll have to do a video about it if I ever get it to work. But it'll only go left and right. So I can use the trackball for like breakout, but I can't use it for Missile Command, and I can't use it for Centipede, the games that I really want to use it for. Although I do want to use it for Breakout also, because it's fantastic with Breakout. But yeah, I'll either try, I don't know if I can fix that or if I had just end up having to get a new one. But anyway, it's a really cool trackball controller. It's humongous. I'll show it to you. Hang on, I got it right here. Look how big this sucker is. Look at this. It's as big as the 2600 or the 7800. It's a huge controller. But it's really cool. What a strange console this is, but like I said, I love that stuff. The weirder, the better. Oh, man. Okay. So, yeah, I want to show you something else also since we're talking about all this stuff. This is a 5200 controller if you've never seen one. I've got this already partially opened up. I'm going to open it up the rest of the way so I can show you what it's like inside of it. You'll notice the stick is a little off to the side. That's because it's not really put together correctly. But I wanted to show you something about this controller. If you're ever having problems with your 5200 controllers, it's usually because of two main things. There's two main things that have gone wrong with your controller. So if we want to open it up, just pop this top off, and then we can take the little pad off, and then we can open the controller itself. So it's a fascinating control. It's really fascinating how this thing works, how it's supposed to work anyway. This one doesn't work right, which is why I have it sitting like this. It's not working properly. But I'll show you what's interesting about it is, at least let me first say what couple of things people usually have go wrong with their 5200 controllers. This is a redone circuit board. The old ones that I've had have all been green. This replacement one was blue, and unfortunately this blue one I guess is not very good because it just has not worked very well. So this controller's, like I said, not 100% functional because of that. But this is basically what you get. These little membrane pads, and then you have these pots that are for the analog. So these are the two things that can go wrong for the most part. Is these pads can become oxidized, they can get grimy, they can lose conductivity with these things, right? Sometimes these things themselves can be the problem. And if you want, you can actually buy like gold tipped pads like these, which I have for the main controller that I use now. They're not very expensive, and that will help with the connectivity. But the main issue is probably this membrane itself, this plastic circuit board. It's not really a board, this circuit membrane thing. You can replace these. You can get them fairly cheap. They sort of fold around onto the interior of the controller. They plug in here to this, what's basically a slot, like you would plug, it's like a card slot basically that you plug this into. And then see these little things come out here. I'll show you. Yeah. Anyway, see how they work. But yeah, your problem is either going to be usually that these things aren't working anymore because they become oxidized or they become really grimy. So you can clean them, get out a Q-tip and some alcohol. You can get an eraser, like a pencil eraser, and try to clean them with that. Some people recommend that. I don't do that because I think it's kind of harsh for something like this. It's kind of flimsy, but you can do that. Alcohol is another thing. The best thing that I've found for cleaning this type of stuff, which will accomplish the cleaning and deoxidization, it'll cover you on both of those, is to actually buy something like Deoxid. And this stuff will, you spray just a little bit on there. Be careful about how much you use. Be careful about what you come into contact with. And then you clean that with like a swab, some microfiber cloth, something like that. And it'll fix a lot of those problems that you are having. You can clean these things as well. That's one of the major issues people have with these controls, is the buttons quit working, whether it's the top buttons, your start button, pause button, reset button. These seem to always work pretty good, these little number keys. But these buttons especially can be problematic. And, no matter what you do, sometimes you can't fix all the buttons. Sometimes they just will not all work. These two and these two are duplicates. So as long as you have like either this 1 and 2, or this 1 and 2, or this 1 and this 2, or this 1 and this 2, or some combination of that, you can use the functionality to control it. So I'm glad they gave you that option. You have a couple of opportunities to make your buttons work, which is good. So yeah, fix one of the problems you have with the controllers with Deoxit or with alcohol, something to that effect. Or if you have to replace this membrane, you can get replacements and then clean the connector where it slots in there and get it working again. The other major issue you have is the joystick itself, this analog joystick. And what a strange method of creating analog movement. You have these two pots. You see this one here, and it rotates or revolves. Revolves, I guess is the right word. And this one does the same thing. And those are supposed to line up with those holes there and there for your joystick. So you set your joystick in, and those holes are supposed to line up with these notches in these pots. So when you plug this thing in, you should have one of these, this one here facing down and this one to the left, so you can get that to line up properly. And then as you move the joystick left or right, then it moves those pots. See what I'm saying? And that creates your analog movement. Very strange. And I have yet to see a controller that the pots themselves don't work. The pots seem to be fine on pretty much every controller I've ever had. And I have several. I have like 5 or 6 of these things. The problem is this right here. This connection, the way this mechanically operates with the joystick, not all of these will work properly. This one does not work properly. It doesn't want to do what it's supposed to do. And as soon as you make a movement, it'll come off the rail, so to speak, and then you won't be able to control what you're doing. So this, unfortunately, I'm having that issue. There might be a place you can get like replacements for this, like 3D printed replacements or something. I'm really not sure. If I can find something like that, it would be cool to do some testing and see if I can get, some of the, like 1 or 2 of these extra controllers I have to work how they're supposed to. But unfortunately, when I have that sort of an issue, I have not been able to resolve that. So I end up with these controllers that just don't want to work properly. Another thing is you might see this one has this big crack in it right here. And that's from years and years of wear and tear, because people have really worked this joystick, you know. So yeah, this one just has not been fixable, but not to say it could never be. You know, just like my trackball might be fixable, I don't know. But I do have a couple of really good ones. I have one controller that works perfectly, and I have another controller that the stick works perfectly. The buttons are a little bit hard to manage. So as long as you have one that has good stick functionality and button functionality, you're good. But if you have a second controller that at least has good stick functionality, that's going to help you for those twin stick games. There are some really good twin stick experiences for the 5200, like Robotron. So that's good to have. So yeah, this control makes a huge difference for these games. And with games like, for example, Missile Command, having that analog movement, if you have a really good 5200 controller, it feels so good. It's just really nice. It's really nice. Pole position also works extremely well. Breakout works really well. Centipede, the games that really take advantage of the analog capability really make the difference. And that's why, yes, even though the Atari 8-bit computer has basically identical versions of all the games for the 5200, for the most part, the control is a big deal. So, that's one of the reasons that I love this console. And I just love the way it looks and the way the cartridges look. These are some solid, really well-made cartridges. The only issue anybody that I know has ever had with them is there's no label on the top, which is kind of annoying. But other than that, these things are made like tanks. These are really, really well-made cartridges. These and NES cartridges are maybe the two most best built cartridges that I can think of. Nothing against like the Sega Genesis cartridges, Master System. Those are really good too. I'm not saying they're not, but these things are really well made and they're beautiful. I love the look of these cartridges. It's a console I just have a connection with because of the time that I got it and how I got into 5200. What originally happened was one of my relatives was cleaning out their closet and gave us the 5200, and nobody else cared about it. Nobody even wanted this thing. And it was offered to me. They're like, "Hey, do you want this?" And I was like, "What is that?" Because I'd never heard of the 5200. At least I thought I had never heard of it. And I was like, "Okay, I'll try it." And I was like, "What is up with these controllers?" And it's so strange. I didn't understand what it was. And I immediately fell in love with it when I started playing the games because I had never seen the 5200 run games. And it was way better than the 2600. I never had a 7800. So this was like a really good experience. It was strange. Yes, it was strange. But I loved it. I fell in love with it. And then I realized after I was playing with it that these cartridges did look familiar to me. And I couldn't quite put my finger or my thumb on why they were so familiar looking until I remembered the movie Cloak and Dagger that had the kid that played Elliot from E.T., Henry Thomas, and Dabney Coleman. And I had seen that movie a bunch of times because it came on, I don't know if it was HBO or Showtime. We had recorded it on tape and I had watched it a lot because I really liked that movie. I thought it was really cool. If you've never seen Cloak and Dagger, it's actually really cool. Anyway, in that movie, there's one of the plot devices in the movie is there's this cartridge that has this secret information and stuff on it. And it's an Atari 5200 cartridge. And that further sort of cemented in my mind how much I loved this thing because it was weird and different. Nobody knew about it. And I knew something about it that made it even more special to me. it felt like it was this secret little thing that nobody knew about, that nobody had ever discovered. Like I stumbled across this weird, fascinating thing that I then became like, it was like, for me, it was like my personal little experience that I didn't share with anybody else. It was just me, not even my brother. Nobody cared about this thing, just me. And I think this was probably when that whole fixation in my head really started to get going with the weird, unknown, less popular little consoles. And that's why I think, because of my introduction to the 5200 and my affection for the 5200, that's why I think I came to love so many of these other things. Although I should mention also, the first console we ever owned was the Intellivision. Okay, and if you want to talk about weird, lesser known, oddball consoles, I mean, Intellivision definitely fits that mold, right? Um, so yeah, I maybe that's where it really started, right? But I think the 5200 was like the first time that I had discovered something sort of on my own. Yes, a family member had dropped this off and given it to us, but nobody told me anything about it. There was no description of what it even was. I'd never seen this in a video game magazine. It was this discovery. It was very cool. So I think that led me to the Master System, the TurboGrafx 16, the Atari Jaguar, so many of these consoles that were lesser known, the Sega Saturn, that I then became really enthralled with, and really fixated upon. So yeah, I love kind of weird stuff, and the 5200 is definitely an example of that. So I just wanted to share all this because, yes, I have another 5200. I actually have two of them now for some reason. I didn't pay some crazy amount for my modded one, believe it or not. I got a really good price on it. And I'll be doing some game footage to show you what that S-video signal looks like, because, my XEGS, my Atari 8-bit computer, it outputs composite video. The colors are a little different on the XEGS as opposed to 5200, but this modded 5200 will do S-video, which is even better than that, which is just a phenomenal looking picture. So I will definitely have to show you that. Since we're talking about hardware, I should mention one more little thing that I wanted to bring up, which was, if you have one of these consoles and you have these controllers, these cables are not very long. They're just not very long at all. So I do recommend that you buy extensions for these, and you can, if you're not sure what to get or how to find extensions for the 5200, this connection is exactly the same connection for the Neo Geo consoles, for the AES and for the Neo Geo CD. So if you can get extension cables for the Neo Geo, they will also work for the Atari 5200. I know this because that's what I did. I wasn't even intending to get this for the 5200. I got my extension cables for the Neo Geo, and they worked great for that. And I sold my Neo Geo a while back, and I still had one of the extension cables, and I tried it out, and it works perfectly for this. So if you can find extension cables for Neo Geo, they will also work on the Atari 5200. And I assume vice versa, because, like I said, my cables work for both. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to share at the moment. Look for some videos coming, some gameplay footage, this type of thing. But if you're into the Atari consoles, then let me know. They've been around for a long time. The 50-year anniversary is a big deal. A lot of people are talking about. I know that I have bought a lot of different Atari consoles and plug-and-play devices. I have Atari collections. I recently bought the Atari Flashback collection for the Switch. I had all 3 of the flashback collections on my PS4, but it went on sale. The cartridge went on sale for the Switch, and that has all of those built into one cartridge, and it was like $20. So I was like, well, that's a no-brainer. So if you're interested in Atari and you don't really want to get invested too much in like the hardware, or you don't want to really try to tinker too much with the emulators that are out there or plug and play devices or something, you can pick up the flashback collection pretty cheap. It may not be as cheap as I got it. It might be cheaper. I don't know. You might find a really good deal, but it's just cool to check out these older games. Some of them still have a lot of replayability. They're fun even if you're not somebody who grew up with this stuff. But of course, people like me who have that nostalgic connection and we just enjoy this type of game are going to feel like a little bit different, probably a little bit stronger connection to games like this and to the flashback collection and stuff like that too. So yeah, it's not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. So congratulations, Atari. VCS is out. Obviously there's games, there's new versions of like reimagined games that are even new ones coming out for this new collection that they're putting out. And I'm definitely interested in that. I love the retro reimagined versions of these older games. So yeah, I'll be talking about all that going forward as well. Anyway, that's it. I'll stop talking. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for checking out my Atari 5200 stuff. And let me show you this box one more time as I finish this video. It's pretty cool that you can buy these like this. A little bit of moisture damage or whatever on this box, but there's nothing. The thing was still in plastic when I bought it, so it was fine. It works fine. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. All right, that's it. I'll stop talking. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.